Hi everyone, my name is Kristen. My pronouns are she, her.
My name is Melanie. My pronouns are they, them.
And this is the second part of our series on the writing process. And Mel's been walking us through their writing process in the last video. And today we're going to be specifically talking about once you have a draft, how do you continue to further develop it? Because mostly first drafts are never the final product.
No.
Like, what draft number is this, Mel, of Switchback?
I have no idea. I mean, 49? I don't know. I don't know. What constitutes a new draft? I mean, that's maybe the sort of chicken and egg question. Yeah.
And so along the way, definitely, usually projects are enriched and develop and get further along the process and closer to production with some feedback. So there's lots of different types of feedback you can get. Let's talk about some of the ones that we've done with Switchback.
Yeah, so we've talked about doing like different workshops and labs, and in those labs working with story mentors. So that can be one of the main ways, is working with a mentor or someone who is like a seasoned, experienced professional who is applying that lens to your writing and offering you feedback based on their industry experience, on their writing experience, their storytelling experience, whatever. And that can be fantastic. It can also be sort of something to navigate if you feel like that person has great advice but maybe doesn't resonate with your idea or your film. So that can get like a bit tricky. And I think you do have to be discerning when you receive feedback about what about it resonates for you and what doesn't, because anybody can look at anybody's script and say they don't like it and then give you a bunch of feedback from that positioning. That isn't necessarily the feedback you want to take, right? You want to take feedback from folks who are going to already kind of be interested in your idea, who already find the themes or the setting or the characters fascinating, and they just want them to be better or more deep or more interesting or whatever. And so story mentors is kind of one way. Another one is just peers. So working with peer writers, people who are similar experience to you, your friends. It could be other participants at those kinds of workshops where you might be reading each other's work and giving feedback, things like that. And so I think that's one of the more common, I would say, like ways that you might get feedback. And then we've tried some other ways as well, which is specifically sending to readers who we very deliberately choose people who have never heard anything about the film. So this is people who are bringing you like a fresh eye. With Switchback, we did a round where we sent it out to people who were outdoorsy type people, who were queer, who, to give us different perspectives on the writing, but who had no prior knowledge about how the film ends, about the characters, about how long we've been working on it, about any of that. So they can give you kind of, and they're not writers either. So they're not coming at it from a writing perspective, they're coming at it from an audience member perspective of like someone who might watch your film, the average person who's gonna buy a ticket and watch your film, yeah.
And if you have a new draft that you're looking to get feedback from, who's the first person you send it to?
Well, number one person that's going to get it is Kristen. Always Kristen first. And that is, that's part of the creative partnership. Like, we wouldn't be a partner in a partnership if I didn't think that Kristen's opinion, ideas, feedback was some of, or if not the most valuable to me, because ultimately, we are the ones who have to make it happen. You're the one who has to figure out a lot of the budgeting to make it happen. And so, if you're coming back to me and saying, is there a way you could do this differently? Like, that's really valuable feedback for me in a practical sense, like in a very, very practical sense. But it's not like feedback. I do want to say this. Feedback isn't only people saying this is what you need to change. Feedback is also this is what worked. Feedback is also, this is what I liked. Oh, that scene made me so mad, or that scene made me so upset, or that scene made me tear up. that's also really good feedback, because then you know what not to change, like what is working in the script. And I get a lot of that from you. I get a lot of like really positive, encouraging feedback where you're like, I love that new bit or whatever.
And I also have a history with the project. I've known things that have happened in past drafts. I've known the journey it's taken. So as much as valuable as fresh eyes are, sometimes the eyes that have seen all the iterations along the way are also, have additional context that is informing the process. So
because a fresh reader can offer you sometimes really new things, and they could also suggest things that is retreading ground that you have already tried those things, and you know that those things don't work, and this person just doesn't know that. That's fine. It doesn't make their feedback invalid. It just means like that's an example of feedback that you're like, I'm not going to use that because I know I've already tried that.
Yeah. Regardless, along the way, getting different feedback is always valuable, even if it's not something that you end up directly applying. Just that process of thinking of things through a different lens, considering different options, I think is always going to eventually enrich in the script for the better.
Yeah, and I think if I can say one last thing about this is the last type of feedback is the kind of feedback that you pay for. We hired a story editor.
Shout out to our story editor,
yes,
Ashley Cooper.
Ashley has been an amazing, amazing addition to our team through that development phase. And like, yes, I just said it like, oh, we paid them, but part of it is you're picking someone who has a specific expertise, and that's different than being paired with somebody at a workshop, right? We made a selection and we chose this person, and then we paid them for their work and their time and their expertise. And then, working with a story editor is not just receiving notes. It's often like conversations. You get on a video call, you talk through scenes, you talk through ideas. And that was a really, really valuable process for us on this most recent draft. And ultimately, that's the draft that got us funded. So, it was absolutely worth it. And I do highly recommend it, not too early in your process, but I do highly recommend that as a way to receive really focused and dedicated feedback on your work. Yeah.
Well, thanks everyone for tuning in this week, and let us know if you have any questions about the writing process or about arranging and getting feedback. And we'd love to hear your thoughts.
And we'll see you in the next video.
Bye.